Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm so excited to welcome Ali Goff from Goff Legal. I hope I said that right.
Yes.
Um, and today she's going to be talking to us about hold on, why you need a trust.
Yes.
I was about to say why you need a real estate agent, which is
You do need one
not
of
what
those
we're here
too.
today. Also important, but that's not what we're talking about today. So why you need to trust. And um, yeah, Ali is local here in the Sacramento area. And yeah, so let's just dive in, Ali. Or if you want to share anything that I missed, please feel free. And then we can dive into the topic.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Local. I will maybe share a little bit about me and the firm if that's helpful.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, my name is Allie. Alexandria is my legal name, but no one calls me that. It's Allie. So if anyone like emails me, dear Alexandria, like I know I don't know them. So pro tip, call me Allie. More likely to respond to your email, not think it's spam. um, So I grew up in this area. I live in Loomis. I have an office in Rocklin. We serve clients in Sacramento County, El Dorado, Nevada, Placer, Yuba. Technically, we can work all over the state of California, but most of our clients are sort of in this geographical area. I went to school here all the way from literally when I was at preschool all the way through law school was in Davis. So, and then I came back here and opened the firm. It's been 10 years. I've had my firm for 10 years now.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It was a milestone. I started right out of law school, and so um, it's been a wild ride. I've really enjoyed it. But yeah, we do probates, trust administrations, estate planning, all the incapacity and death planning is what I call it. So
Super important and things that we don't always like to think about, but we're all going to die at some point. So
true story.
it's a good, let's just think about it and plan for it and help make it maybe easier for people who are still living when we are not.
Yeah, it really is. Estate planning really is a gift to the people you leave behind. It is one of those things that and I can go into a little bit of like why it's important to plan for you while you're alive, it's also really important to think about what you're leaving behind. And most people, once they've gone through an administration, their mom or dad has passed, and either it was really easy or it was really awful, and they had to go through probate, they're like, whoa, I'm not putting my family through that. I would like it to be different. And so it is really important. It's incredibly important. So I'm glad I get to chat with y'all today about it.
Yeah, I was looking up, and I know we're talking about trust today, but I was looking up some stats. And so, um, one of these stats, it asks what is the most common age to have a will, which I don't know, maybe trusts are even less common. So, I guess we could ask what people think the most common age is to have a will. And the categories are 18 to 34, 35 to 54, 55 to 71, and 72 plus.
I'm going to guess it's the third one, 55 to 74, or whatever that one is, 54 to 70. That one.
Yeah. So it's the most common age to have a will is actually the 72 plus age, which kind of makes sense because if you make
Yeah.
it that far, you're probably have your stuff all figured out. And then the second most common, 45% of people is 35 to 54.
Interesting. I think that's when people are having kids. They
Yeah.
finally realize they're leaving someone behind that they care deeply about and go, I need to get my estate plan done.
Yeah. And then if when you're young, right, you're like, oh, well, I don't have anything, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'll do that later. I don't need that. Estate plans for rich people. Oh, name the excuse. Yep, I got them
Yes.
all.
We're gonna bust through all of those excuses today.
Yep.
And then the other interesting thing I was looking at actually before we get into what they are is the breakdown by race. And so this is due in part to wealth gaps, wage inequalities that we know exist, and a lack of access to financial literacy, education, all of things we're trying to dismantle. And so the breakdown of having a will by race is, I mean, can we guess? We can guess in the chat again. Your options are white, black, and Hispanic. Which one do you think is more likely to have a will?
I can answer that one. Let's see what the chat says.
White with a sad face. Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
Wait, that's my guess too.
35%. And then black is 29%, which is actually way higher than it was just like 3 years ago. It used to be like 14%. So that one has jumped up a lot.
Big jump.
And then Hispanic is 27%.
Okay.
So none of these are very high.
No. Well, and what I found that actually culturally it matters too, like where you were raised, what country you came from, and what the laws were there will sometimes dictate what you do here. I've met people who said, I don't need a will, I don't need planning because when I die, it all goes to the government. And I was like, not in this country, it doesn't. They were like, they had no idea. They had literally no idea that they could control where their stuff went because that's not where they were raised. That's not where they were born and what their country did. So there's a lot of like misinformation that we just don't educate people about, in I think a great way.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Actually, that's great to know, and to think about. Okay, so those are just some stats I pulled, and so clearly they say not a lot of people know about this. Not a lot of people have done this. I had a quick poll in my Instagram this morning, and it was the same. People were like, "No, I have not done that," and so that's why we're here today.
That's why we're here. Yeah.
So, how about Ali, if you can give us just like a very basic idea of what a trust even is and maybe what the difference is between a will and a trust. Let's start there.
Perfect. I love that. That's a great question because I get that all the time. Like, do I need a will or a trust? And why would I need a trust? So a trust basically controls your assets when you're incapacitated. Think coma or mental, severe disability, dementia, right? Those sorts of things. So incapacity, you're not able to make decisions, and after you pass away. While you're alive, the trust works for you. You use it just like you would a regular bank account. We're called these revocable trusts. They're designed to be really flexible and super easy. When you're gone, however, they transition to irrevocable. You can't change them anymore, and now they benefit someone else, your beneficiaries. So your trustee, the person who's in charge, then distributes money to where you want it to go. Sometimes that's to family members, sometimes it's to charities, sometimes we hold money back and use it for the benefit of someone, let's say a minor child. You don't want any of your kids, or really anyone under probably the age of 25, getting a hold of a large sum of cash. So we hold it and benefit for their whatever they need. Maybe it's college, maybe it's schooling that's not college, trade school, food, shelter, transportation, whatever that looks like. So the trust can be really flexible. The great thing about trusts, at least the way we use them in California, primarily are to avoid probate. That is the court supervised process, which I know you are familiar with, Rose, because you do real estate and have probably had a number of houses either bought or sold through a probate.
Yes.
And it's irritating. It's time consuming. It is expensive. It is slow. Oh my gosh, the court system is so slow.
So slow.
And so the trust avoids that whole process. The will does very similar things, but it doesn't avoid probate. It says where you want your stuff to go. It can control how it gets there, but it doesn't avoid probate, and it doesn't help you if you're incapacitated. It only works when you're dead. So it's actually a really limited document that doesn't do exactly what we need it to, at least in California. My note, because I know you probably have some viewers here who are maybe from other states. Every state is different. Some states, a will is fine, and the probate process is not awful. In California, no. It's terrible. Nobody likes it. No one's happy to go through probate. And so the trust is really the vehicle that we planners use when anyone comes in and goes, I need estate plan. I'd like to avoid probate. I go, do you have a house? Yes. Great. You need a trust. Next. right? Like everyone sort of fits in this category because whether your house has equity, a lot of equity or a little equity, doesn't matter, right? Any real estate is basically going to go through probate over a certain value in California if you're not in a trust.
And we don't know also like when you're going to pass away or when, so like maybe it doesn't have a lot of value now, but in 10 years, in 20 years, like it could have a lot of value. And so, right? Maybe you're not rich, what you think is rich now, but in 10 years, in 20 years,
Yeah.
or even
And
over the pandemic, right? 2 years. It took 2 years and a bunch of people had a lot of equity in their houses. So,
yes. Oh, for sure. And probate doesn't care about the equity. They care about the value. It's 188,250 or some really, it keeps changing every year. That's the total amount that you can have and avoid probate. So if you have $190,000 of everything, including your house, including your cars, your bank accounts, you're headed through probate if you don't have a trust or some other mechanism to transfer those assets. It's not that high.
no.
I had a client, she has several $1,000,000. I met with her and talked about estate planning, and she goes, I had no idea. I just didn't think I had enough money yet. And I'm like, if she thinks that with someone who has several $1,000,000, imagine what everyone else who's got like $500,000 or 300,000 in a piece of real estate. That's enough money to go through probate. So there's a bit of a skewed like, when do I need a trust, right? That
Yeah.
limit is, yeah, one of those things.
Especially in California. I mean, that's low. That's
Try
so.
buying real estate for less.
I think the cheapest house on the market right now is like 150,000, maybe, like
Yeah.
right now. So,
And even that wouldn't avoid probate because it's real estate. So to avoid probate with real estate, it's like 50,000 essentially.
yeah.
It's yeah, and that's going to appreciate in value. All you and your viewers know this, right? The real estate market tends to go up. So you buy something now, it's going to continue to increase in value.
Yeah. And then the interesting thing you said also about time, right? Like, so someone passes away, they have this piece of property, they don't have a trust, it's going to go through the court system. I had a client and they bought a house during the pandemic. It took an entire year for them to actually get possession of that house and to officially buy it. It took a year. And in that time, their equity like went super high. So that was great for my client, my buyer, although it was stressful and it took time. But sometimes they're the houses that we see in the neighborhood that just sit forever.
Yeah.
Like they are stuck, and they could be stuck because of the court system or because it's family members arguing over things. Because sometimes, right, if there's siblings involved, things can get really complicated.
Yep.
And so another maybe good reason to have a trust, and then also educate the family about what that means and what that looks like. And I know you have kind of a service where you help do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the probate process is slow because we're beholden to a court supervised procedure. So someone passes away, let's say they grieve for a little while, sort of get their heads on straight. Maybe they call the real estate agent. Maybe they call you and go, okay, my mom died. I know she has this house. We're ready to sell it. And if you're a good real estate agent, which I know you are, you pull the title and you look at things and you go, ooh, it looks like it's in your mom's name. It's not in a trust. You need an attorney or you need to go through probate. So fine. 2 weeks later, they get an appointment with an attorney, meet with an attorney. We say, great, we can help you. Let's move forward, draft all the documents, get something filed. Let's say 2 weeks after that, assuming the client's like way on top of things, file something. It could be months before you get the first hearing. Months. Some counties will get you in like 30 to 45 days. Try LA County. Ooh, don't try LA County. It could be 6 months before you have your very first hearing. All the while, remember when mom died? Someone had to pay that mortgage. Someone has to pay her property taxes, her insurance, the utilities, all of that. And no one has access to her funds because it's locked up because it hasn't been approved yet over here in this first hearing. Then once it gets approved, there's a whole paperwork and stuff that happens in this middle section, by the way. Then it gets approved. Now they have authority to sell the house, right? Then you go through this whole thing. But I've gotten calls from clients or from real estate agents who don't know what they're doing, who go, "Hi, we're under contract. We're closing in 2 weeks and we need letters." And I just laugh because I know what they need is a probate and it'll be 3 months minimum. And they had no idea because they didn't pull title. They're not experienced with probates. They just wanted a quick listing. I'm like, you didn't have authority to actually list the house or accept an offer. How are you closing? So yeah, it can get really hairy. And then, oh yeah, if the family's fighting, just like turn on the pause button. No, like stuff's not being sold. Lawyers are making a boatload of money. The family's not. Like it's just it can be so messy. And the whole thing's public. Everything is public. The assets, the debts of the decedent, the accounting, everything gets published in the newspaper 3 times. There's going to be a hearing. So if you like your privacy, you're not going to like probate, right? And then, right, because it's public, you start getting, people starting calling you going, "Hey, you want to sell that house to me? How would they get your information?" It was public. It was public record that there was a piece of real estate, and they start searching stuff. And so it is a slow. And then let's say you sold it, right? You have to wait, pay the creditors, and then you file to say we're done. Then the beneficiaries get paid at least a year later. Sometimes many years later, depending on what's going on. So not fun.
Yeah. So probate is a process. Probate process. Let's see. We have a question in the chat. Are there fees associated with the probate stage?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about the costs. I was just actually co-writing a book with some other lawyers on probates, and we were going through the fees, and essentially it is, I can bring up the chart, but it is a percentage. So if you have, let's play this game. I have the internets, and we're gonna play. How much do you think it costs to probate this house? All right, and you can do this at any time. You literally Google California probate calculator, find the second one. The first one makes you put in their information, but the second one doesn't. I'm not gonna say what the firm is, but anyways, there's a firm that will do the calculator. It's 4% of the first 100,000, 3% of the next 100,000, 2% of the next 800,000, and 1% of the next $9 million. So let's say you have a house worth 550,000. Is that like an average? What's an average sale price of a house right now?
Yeah, in Sacramento. That's good. Sacramento.
So 550,000. We're not including anything else. No bank accounts, no brokerage accounts, no real property, no vehicles, nothing. Just the house. So probate is $14,000 to the attorney, $14,000 to the executor. Then there's probably $2,000 to $3,000 just in costs. Filing fees, recording fees, probate referee fees, e-filing fees, right? Doesn't that sound like fun?
Wow, that's a lot. Okay, and listen, I was just in the Bay. I grew up in the Bay Area. Okay, and their average cost of a house is $2 million. So let's play the game for $2 million. All
right, tell us, Bob, what we've won for $2 million. $2 million.
And a lot of these people did not buy $2 million houses, right? They bought $250,000 houses 30 years ago. So this is really important for them. Yeah.
Yes. They might think they have a $150,000 house, but really it's worth $2 million.
Yeah.
Yeah. Their attorney fees are $33,000. Executor gets the same, so another $33,000. So $66,000 just for a single piece of property in the Bay Area to be probated, assuming everything goes smooth, right? And there's no bumps in the road. Plus you've got your realtor fees, you've got any fixing up of the property, you're going to pay the CPA, we're going to it's a thing, right?
That's a lot of money. And so one of the reasons that people do not do this trust process or even a will process is because one of the excuses that I've heard is it costs too much.
Mm-hmm. I've heard that too.
So what is the cost for a trust? And then we'll compare it with this probate cost that we just
for sure. Always a fun comparison. For most people who are in our office, like they've got a piece of real estate, maybe they've got a minor kid. Most people are in like the $3,000 to $5,000 range. 5,000, they probably have two pieces of property and maybe some separate property. Um, I mean, some attorneys will do it closer to two. Some are, on the higher end, but I would say between 3 and 5 is probably a really good estimate of what it costs. And that's not just the trust though. That's a trust, that's a power of attorney for finance, that's a healthcare directive, a HIPAA waiver, a will, schedule of assets, a piece of real estate transferred into your trust. Like I have a certification of trust, assignment of like that's 10 different documents. And so if you think probate's expensive, I know we're talking about trusts and wills, but like a conservatorship, do you know what a conservatorship is?
Let's tell everyone what
Let's
it
tell
is.
everyone. Get all smiley because it's crazy. So, Britney Spears, everyone knows about this now because of Britney Spears, right? She was under a court ordered conservatorship. She was deemed to not have the capacity to make certain decisions, and she didn't have any legal documents. So, the court appointed someone to make decisions for her. The problem with that process is one, it is public. We all knew about it. And two, it is so expensive. It's several hearings, it's multiple attorneys, court appointed counsel, a court investigator. Like it's usually reserved for people who have dementia, or who have some sort of like immediate traumatic brain injury who can't get into their own estate planning. But I mean, that you're looking at $5,000 to $25,000 while you're alive, right? So if you had the trust, right? If you came to me and said, "Hi, I have two pieces of property and a minor child, and I want to protect it," and I said to you, for $5,000, I can protect you from conservatorship and probate and have your family's process be easy, would you say yes? Be like, yeah,
Yes,
here's my money. Please
I
take my
would.
$5,000. So it sounds a lot. It's for the value of what you're getting is far more than $5,000. And again, not everyone's plan is $5,000, but it's good to have like some rolling averages to expect if you're meeting with an attorney. Depends on the area. The Bay Area might charge a little bit more. Everyone's on Zoom these days, so you could hire an attorney from Sacramento, even if you live in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
Save a little bit on fees. So yeah, it's estate planning is more than just like death planning, right? It is incapacity planning, it's death planning, it's probate avoidance, it's like hassle planning, hassle avoidance planning. Yeah. So
And even though it's all those things and it sounds like a lot and it can be very overwhelming sounding, that's, I think, because I've been through this whole process and the lawyer makes it easy. Like
oh
you
yeah.
have all these tools and things that you do on your side that make it so easy.
Yeah.
And like, anyways, it's a
Give
lot
you
that
all
you're
the details.
doing, but
Yeah.
yeah. Again, like real estate agents, right? Like I'm taking care of the contract for my clients. We're doing all the paperwork. They're reading it. I'm telling them what it says, but you know, it's not something that you have to do by yourself. Like I'm not going to be by myself writing up a trust, right? No, I'm going to get a lawyer to do that because they're going to make it easy for me.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You can get it done online. It's risky because you have to make sure you selected the right buttons. And oftentimes, even if they did the trust right, they didn't actually fund their trust. They
Mhm.
didn't put their house into trust. And so a trust is only useful if there are assets in it. So if you paid even $500 for a trust online, maybe there's 700 now. I don't even know what it is. You pay for a trust and they say, don't forget you need to put your house in trust. And you forget to put your house in trust. Well, we're back in probate land, right? You paid $500 or $700 that was a waste and we're still in probate. Like that was just literally throwing your money to some software company. Versus when you meet with the attorney, they go, tell me about your assets. Here's instructions on how to put this in trust. I'm going to put this in trust for you. If you get these assets, call me. We'll put them in trust, right? Like,
And
and
just, yeah, being more thoughtful about it, right?
yeah.
Talking it through, thinking about it.
Oh, I forgot about that asset. That should go in trust.
Yeah.
Oh, I inherited money. What about my checking account? Yeah, okay. Like we go through all the assets and go, how do we make sure that these don't get lost to the probate court and end up in this system. The money's going to go to the beneficiaries. It's just going to be chipped away before it makes it there, which is usually not what people want. You touched on this a little bit earlier. The nice thing about a trust is, let's say you have a piece of property that you bought for $300,000. It's going to appreciate in value, but you can take that trust and you can add stuff later. Let's say you bought a rental property. You could put that in the trust, and most trusts, you don't have to pay to have it changed. Your beneficiaries are the same. You just have more assets. Great. My bank account's now $30,000 when it was $3 last time. It still avoids probate, right? The trust can be so flexible that once you create it, you just start adding stuff into it, right? Cool. Put that in there. Put that in there.
And it also provides a layer of privacy, like you were saying, privacy when someone passes away, but also privacy when people are alive. Like a lot of property is held in trust, and then you don't necessarily know who the owner is. Like
potentially, yeah, it does still have the trustee. So if the owner is the trustee, but I've done
sure.
some things where I appointed a trustee, transferred it into trust, and had that trustee resign. But on paper, it's someone else's name with a weird trust name. Like, we could do some weird planning. I'm down for it. Yeah. Yeah. And you can put businesses in trust, right? You might want to buy your rental properties in an LLC, and then your trust would own the LLC. So on paper, an LLC owns this property, but really it's all going to avoid probate, right? There's ways to connect up things to avoid the hassles.
Yeah. So let's see. Another stat that I found was 35% of American adults say they have personally experienced family conflict or know someone who has as a result of not having an estate plan. We talked about that a little bit, but again, just like there's the monetary cost, and then there's like your emotional time cost of this.
Yeah.
63% of people who make more than 80,000 a year say they don't have time to create an estate plan. So can you talk a little bit, how much time does it actually take, would you say?
An interesting stat. I love that. That's because it doesn't take you all very long. It takes us a lot longer.
Sometimes though, we perceive things are going to take way longer in our head too.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and some firms do it differently. Like there are some very like, and no judgment, like old school firms where you will show up and you'll fill out a piece of paper and you'll meet with the attorney like 4 times.
With like one of these, a pen. Okay.
pen and the paper, right? And then there are firms who mine are a little more tech savvy. We send a pretty comprehensive intake at the beginning. Tell us about your goals, right? And if you're a couple, you can sit over a glass of wine watching, something on TV and fill this out in the evening, right? It takes a while to like gather information, but then for us, like maybe a month and a half for the entire process, right? And we're talking probably 3 meetings. The first meeting, meet with the attorney, figure out what you want to do, design your plan. Actually, yep. And then the second meeting would be after you got your documents to review them. And then the third meeting is usually either with a paralegal or an attorney or a notary if you're remote to sign them. Like these aren't, and they're usually a couple weeks apart. It doesn't take that long for most people. Now, they can't make any decisions. That's going to take a lot longer. But once people gather the information, like our firm, let's go. Let's move you along. Why? Because I know it's been on their to-do list for a long time. Like clients hire us because they want to get it done. And sometimes we're like, come on, we can do it. You've got to come in and sign. No, I don't wanna. Yes, you need to. Fine. At the end, they're like, thank you so much for doing that. We really appreciate it. Like, I knew it was hard for them. And so we go, I know this is important to you. I'm committed to getting this done with you. Like, let's make sure you actually sign your documents because it is not the most fun thing to think about. But we try and make it easy with our online, like sharing electronic information, like Zoom meetings. I've had clients who like have kids in daycare. And so we do a lunch meeting when they're at work. So we all meet at noon. And we were fine. Sometimes it's 5 o'clock in the evening and the kids running around screaming and we're talking on Zoom. I'm fine. I got 2 kids. I know how to handle some screaming toddlers. Like it's not that hard.
Not that hard. So maybe like each of those meetings is like an hour. That's like 3 hours. So for my clients too, I'll compare it with like sometimes for my clients, when they're looking to buy a house, the hardest thing for them to do is talk to a lender and get the loan process started and like gather up all their documents for their loan. Then they give it to
Yes.
the lender. That can be like the hardest thing to do. So it kind of sounds similar. Like the hardest thing to do is figure out, like, get your documents, everything you need to
Yep.
put in there, and what decisions, right? Where do you want the stuff to go? Thinking about those things is the hardest. And
Yep.
then, but once they give it over to you as the professional,
We're
it's
good.
easy and you got it and you do all the hard, complicated things. So, and I did this, maybe I should have looked it up. I think like maybe 10 years ago now. It was interesting though. And I did it because I had family pass away and I was like, that was complicated and hard. Let me try to make it not complicated and hard when I pass away. Um, but for me also, I was thinking like you're thinking about death and dying and I was like, what if I make this thing and then if I make it and then I pass away right away or something like it was kind of a weird like
Yeah.
mind thing.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, well, now it's been 10 years. So like,
Clearly that didn't cause your death.
right?
My theory is like if you do the estate plan, you're not going to die right away. But if
There
you
you go.
don't, by the way, can't guarantee that. That's not a. Will not put that in writing. That's funny. You know what's funny? What just triggered in my head is you were like the hardest part of people like buying a house is getting the loan doc stuff. I need literally the same thing. So if you just took the same information you did with your loan docs and put it into my system, you're basically done. Like, I don't need exact values from today. I need averages of what you've got with the last four digits of what accounts you have. Like, we're not talking crazy here. We're talking like basic stuff. And I have online videos like on my intake, our form has videos. If you're like, I don't know what a power of attorney would do, there's a video from me saying, this is what a power of attorney does. So that when you get to the part that says, who do you want to be your power of attorney? You go, I know. And you fill it out. And then the attorney customizes it. What do you mean by this? What about this? Solves these problems. Have you thought about this? Let's make sure your plan's really, buttoned up. And now, now it's a customized like family plan versus some thoughts in your head from 3 days ago.
So beautiful. That's so awesome. And also, like, if you just bought a house, like you said, you already have all the info. So,
You already
like,
did half the work.
just take that extra step. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it's part of my, like, hey, congratulations, you just bought a house. Now,
Protect
also,
it.
let's do these things.
Now protect it.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, protect it and make sure that the people that are that you want to have your generational wealth, right? If anything happens, like let's give it to them and not the attorneys and the courts
Yes.
and the government.
Yes. That is
It
all. That's like my presentation is like, let's not give more money to the lawyers. Every time. That's what
yeah,
it comes down to. Like, I actually don't care if you plan because I make way more money for people who don't plan, right? I make more money with people who do it online. I make more money when people fight. It's in my best interest for people not to plan, but I love planning and it makes me happy when they actually feel good. Like that feeling is worth the less money. I would rather have less money and have this smile on my face to go, you feel better. Awesome.
right.
Than to
And the
go,
world would probably be a better place too.
it would certainly be a better place versus the fighting. I'm like, my bank account is happy, but my heart is broken for you guys fighting over this stuff. Like, this is awful. Someone has to do it, right?
Yeah.
Attorneys are always going to have jobs for fighting, but like, what if we could reduce that by 5 or 10%? Like, get a few more plans done every year so that there are fewer and fewer fights. I just think everybody would benefit from that.
Then the courts won't be as busy and then maybe it'll be faster too.
Exactly. Yeah. More people to get their estate plans done, please. Thank you.
Okay, so here's another interesting stat that I found. It says parents with a college degree leave their families a 92,000 inheritance on average.
Oh.
And parents without a college degree leave their families an average inheritance of 76,000. So, I mean, it really doesn't matter. In my opinion, both of those are two kind of like good size numbers. And That's average. So not everyone clearly will get
Is
that.
that span across the country or?
Yes.
Yeah, so depending on, that's a really large span. You'll have like millions of dollars and you'll have like zero of dollars.
Yes. You will.
That's still a pretty decent average.
Yeah.
I'd take that.
And also, like we don't want part of that to go to the courts and the lawyers. So like take that money.
Take that money. Yeah. There's so much good that can be done with inheritance, right? Like it can be part of a charitable thing. It can be part of like a retirement, can get you retirement faster. It could be college money. Like there's so much good that can be done with this money because I call it found money, right? Like you
Yeah.
didn't work hard for it. It was placed in your lap and like now you have an option of like what good to do with it. That's such a cool opportunity that people maybe don't really think about. So, but
Yeah. Let's see, what other stats do we have in here? We already talked about 12% of American adults say they don't have a will because they don't know how to write one.
if only there
That's
was
what,
someone who could help them with that.
yes, that's what Allie's for.
Do you
Oh,
know, in a will in California, you can have a will that it's in your own handwriting. We call it a holographic will. You literally just say, my name, date, my name, when I die, here's where my stuff goes. Sign. That is a valid will in California. It won't avoid probate, but that's a valid document. Anyways, it's not the best way to do it, but like that was free.
yeah,
$0.
$0. You could do that right now.
Zero
Everyone could do
dollars.
that right now as step one.
Step one, write down where your stuff goes. Maybe who's in charge of it. I want this person to be my executor and I want them to give this money to these people. Sign and date. Stick it in the drawer. And then come see a lawyer and we'll make it like way better.
So when do people usually talk about getting a trust? I have the stats here, but I would love to hear, Ali, what you see. Um, it says on my stats, 34% of people start estate planning due to the birth of a child.
Mhm.
So like, oh, hey, there's another human. We need to take care of what's
Yeah.
going to happen. Or if what happens to us, then what happens to the child, right?
Yes.
Like
Oh yeah.
who's going to take care of the child? Or even sometimes pets, I think, can come into play here. And then 9% of people made estate planning a priority after buying a home. 11% were spurred to begin estate planning following the death of a family member. So what do
Valid.
you see?
Yeah. It's usually the first and the third. Some people their agent is persuasive and goes, listen, I know you just invested your life savings into this home, but like you need to protect it. And they go, I do. Thank you very much. And they'll protect it. But most people, it is the young families that are having kid number one, sometimes kid number two. Sometimes they forget about kid number two and they're so busy, but at least they got before kid number one. So I'll take it if I can. And then, yeah, oftentimes it's like either that we're in the middle of administration, trust administration, or probate, and the beneficiary or the executor will go, I need to get my stuff done too. And I go, I know you do. Let's go ahead and get like, I got you. We can take care of this. And they'll sign up for a trust immediately. And what's nice about that is like they know what decisions to make. They've been through the horrors and they know what they want to avoid and what they want it to look like. So those are the two most common scenarios that I go, what brought you in here today? We're having kids, we had kids and we have getting got around to it, or we lost a family member. And, third one's like my wife keeps bugging me. I didn't see that in your stats, but like bugged my wife who said, this is
Yeah.
really important. And they finally said, fine, let's do it.
Okay, we have a question. So is setting up a trust basically just paperwork that prevents your money from being taken by the government? Like, yes, of course, it helps the family, but the main benefit is keeping your money out of the court. Is that correct? Do you want to?
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah. So the fees are usually lower for the attorney if there's not a probate. There are no fees to the court if there's no probate. But no money really goes to the government. I think that's one of those misinformations. If my money goes through probate, it goes to the government, like the IRS. They don't tax it any more than they would tax anything else. But the government, as in like the probate referee the court system, and then there's a bunch of companies that benefit: the newspaper, the e-filing companies, the court runners. Like there's all sorts of these like miscellaneous companies that you have to pay that you wouldn't normally have to pay if you were just doing a regular trust administration. So those are really like the government fees. I think it's worse is the lawyers. They're them because they get a percentage. If you have a trust administration, sometimes we just meet with people, we have a consult, and they decide to do the rest on their own. Sometimes, a $2 million trust would cost me $10,000 to help them out because they wanted it. Sometimes they'll do it on their own for free. Like the forms aren't the same, the process isn't the same. And I think for a lot of family members, they manage to resolve it amongst themselves. You don't have to have a lawyer. It's easier if you do. You're less likely to screw it up. But there's no like court going, you gave us the wrong form, come back in 6 weeks. You still didn't give us the right form, come back in 6 weeks. Like, which is what happens in probate if you don't have an attorney helping you out.
Yeah. Or you forget to close probate.
Yeah, don't forget that. You have to open it, you have to do some middle stuff, you have to close it.
Speaking for a friend. Okay, just kidding. Um, let's see, what else have we talked about why people don't get them. We talked about what they are. We talked about how to get one.
Pricing.
Pricing. What else?
The one thing I was going to mention, I have a training coming up, and I don't know, for people who know their parents or family members have a trust, but they're like, I don't know what to do next. When am I supposed to what is the job of a trustee? What am I supposed to do? That's a whole other presentation, which I am doing on November 8th. It's a virtual training for trustees. It's a paid workshop, essentially. It's, I think, $75, so it's not crazy. Way cheaper than a lawyer.
So helpful. That sounds so helpful.
Yeah. So
would it be helpful for people who are currently in the process of being a trustee as well?
Because it's not specific legal advice to their case, but it's very much like, how should you conduct yourself as trustee? Who are you obligated? What information should you be providing to people? What kind of record keeping should you be doing? Like those sorts of things. If they have an attorney, they've probably already gotten most of that advice, but also like sometimes they maybe didn't, or they know they're gonna be trustees soon, or mom's like declining and they're like, oh God, I don't know what to do. I have no idea what to do. Like if they come to this, at least when mom does pass, they'll go, okay, I know there's a process. I know the timelines. I know that there's not an emergency. The day that mom dies is not an emergency. You don't have to call the lawyer to set up a trust administration consult the day mom dies. Most of the time they will call the day of. They'll be like, we're really sorry for your loss. We'll put something on the calendar for you, but please go be with your family and grieve. Unless there's an actual emergency, this is not an emergency. Take some time, come and see us, right? But I think people maybe need to hear that from a lawyer to go, we got you. Here are the important deadlines. Here's some dates. Here's how we can support you. And that way when it happens, they're not so wrapped up with that and also overwhelmed of what they need to do. They go, I know it's coming. I know who to call. I know when to call them. I'm good. So yeah, should be fun. I'm excited.
Yeah. So essentially it could be okay, everybody listening to this, you've already heard that you need a trust if you don't have one and
you don't have one and you don't want one now. I don't know. We did something wrong.
So the next step would be getting your trustee to take that class, right? Because then you'll just be all set. Yeah. Potentially, I could see how that would be very helpful to be informed as much as possible.
What's coming, right? Yeah. You're not going to know all the answers, but you're gonna get a good overview of what you should know about being trustee, which will put you in a really good place. And then you can call the attorney and get personalized, specialized advice for that case, because every case is a little different. But it's a good primer. And it comes with it. If you pay I think it's $115, you get the trustee manual, which is 50, 100 something plus pages on how to be a trustee, right? So that way you've got even more information.
That's awesome. Thank you for offering that course.
Yeah.
Um, okay, let's go backwards a little bit. I know we talked about like the average price of an estate plan is $5,000, which is way less than if you have to do probate. But I know there are some people who maybe can't afford that right now.
Yep.
So, what would you recommend for people that don't have $3,000 to $5,000 sitting in the bank?
Yeah.
What's your advice?
So, a couple things. One, I would like them to go and get a healthcare directive. It is free online. If you're a Kaiser member, they have a really good healthcare directive. So, just Google advanced healthcare directive, not advanced, advanced healthcare directive. Um, Make sure the notary block is correct because some of those forms have the old ones. But the 5 wishes is the other one I think that is circulating out there that might comply. The idea is that they're nominating someone to make healthcare decisions for them and saying which of those healthcare decisions are important to them. You'll get it either witnessed by 2 people or notarized. Again, that is free. Everyone who is over the age of 18 should have that document, non-negotiable. Power of attorney is the other thing. I recommend that people get a durable power of attorney for finance. You can also Google that. I have a form too, like a simple form. I don't know if you can put my contact information somewhere, but they can email me and I can send them that form. That way, they can start with that. Each person, like if you're a married couple, each person needs their own healthcare directive and their own power of attorney. So they nominate each other to make decisions. There are some online companies who can do trust planning. It's hard for me to recommend them because I normally will just say, I need to redo all of your documents. So they paid $700 for a house that wasn't funded into their trust, only to have me go, and now I need another $3,500. I sort of would have preferred that they save their $700, but that will, right? 2 things you can do. One is to do the holographic will. When I die, I want my stuff to go here, and here's who's in charge of it. You can also Google California statutory form will. There is a will in California. It's really restrictive, but it's a way you can have a will without handwriting it. You write your name, you write who your executors are, you write where you want your house to go, you write where you want your personal property to go. Like you fill in the boxes and you have it witnessed by 2 people who are not in your documents. They cannot be your executors, they cannot be your beneficiaries. Do not put your spouse, like someone you are not related to, please, is going to be witnessing these. So you go to your neighbors and go, hi, I'm going to sign my will. Will you witness it? They'll go, sure, it's weird, but okay. You'll sign it in front of them, and then they'll sign it and you'll be good. So those are the 3 minimums if you don't have the funds necessary yet saved up for the trust. I would do those 3 things. Most, by the way, attorneys take credit cards these days.
That's good to know. And then
Offer payment plans, right? Like if it's really important to you, tell the attorney that and they could probably, figure out a way to make it work that works for everybody.
and I think some depending on where people work, their workplace might offer like a legal.
Yes, Legal Shield or MetLife, or there's a number of insurance companies, and then you'll call the attorney and say, there should be a list of the attorneys that are listed that take that insurance. Like my office doesn't, we don't accept that insurance, but there are some firms who will. And so that's a good start, at least at a minimum, to get, they should be funding the house into the trust. They should get them a really basic trust. They should probably get all the incapacity documents. So that's absolutely a good option for people who've got that benefit.
Yeah. Awesome. Those are very helpful things that people can do right now that don't cost any money.
Yep.
That we can at least start there. And then again, talk to a lawyer, see, let them know maybe they have ways they can help make it like with payment plans or credit cards. Yeah, we pay for what is important to us, right? So if this is important as well, then maybe,
Yeah. I know what people have. Because I deal with their stuff. Like, that's really expensive. And I'm going, I'm not going to have this conversation with you. You either value it or you don't. This is not
Yes.
like
You value those Taylor Swift concert tickets. So,
people
or
paid like
Beyonce.
$1,200 per ticket or more.
There
Was
you
your
go.
estate plan done? I hope so. Anyways, not. I mean, I would have loved to have gone, but I ain't paying $1,200 for his ticket.
Same. I couldn't get any tickets, but it's okay. I saw the movie. We're
Yeah,
good.
save up for next year. Fine, like save $250 a month to get it going, right? For most families who have a young child who are both working, it is absolutely doable if it's important to them, right? That's not a judgment thing. That is just literally what we spend money on. Is we have choices.
And again, we talked about how much it costs if you don't do it.
Oh yeah.
So again, right? It's doing the money now versus later. And maybe you don't care because you'll be gone, but maybe you won't. Maybe you'll just be incapacitated, and that will be
That's way
important to
worse.
you too.
Way worse. Yeah, I've had some clients actually buy estate plans for their kids. They're like, for
Wow.
Christmas, I want to buy estate plans for my kids. So they bought 3 plans and we did their kids' plans, and it was like one of the nicest things I've ever seen. I was like, wow, they have everything. They're fine, but they've been dragging their feet on this one thing, and we know they all had minor, basically new grandchildren, and so we got to do all their plans, which was really cool.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
holiday season is just around the corner.
If
That's
you
a
want an
great
estate
idea.
plan for your family, call me.
That is the most thoughtful gift. I would say that's
Right?
very thoughtful.
It's so thoughtful. It was their idea too. I was like, wow. Whew, thanks. That's sweet of you. Oh
These are
man.
the things I appreciate when people, maintain their house and keep their records and have estate plans. I mean,
Yeah, that's all we need in life. And then share the information. I would say for people who are, because I know we're probably wrapping up soon, but
yeah.
for people who are, we're talking about this generational wealth gap. We're talking about this knowledge gap, right? Culturally, between people of different races or even ages. I think it's really important for people who do have their estate plans to like talk about it with their friends and family. You don't have to talk about how much money you have. You might want to share how much you paid so they know what to expect. Like, I think that's a good thing. Sharing what you're paying for things, I think, is just really good information about the market. But like, educate the people around you so that they know, I do need it. I do have things to protect. I don't want to go through probate, and they can then like help educate, because we can only do so many webinars, but like people who have estate plans done can like go forth and help them plan and find the right, vehicle for them.
I love that. That's such a great message.
Yeah.
Because also we listen to who we trust, right? And so if people trust me and I'm like, "Hello, I did my estate plan 10 years ago," although I probably need to
Might be time to look at it again.
Yes. Thank you for the reminder. Um, yeah. So, any other questions or things we didn't talk about that you wanted to bring up? Um, yeah, or any other questions in the chat that we have? We have a few more minutes. Uh,
The only thing I can think of is if someone's like, what is my next step? If I'm ready to do the estate plan, what is my next step? And I would have them, one, compile the same list of asset information you needed to get your mortgage. So like, where are your bank accounts? What are your investments? All those sorts of things. And then think about, who do you want to be in charge when you're gone, when you can't make decisions? And where do you want your stuff to go? Like, if you get those sort of 3 things, those 3 big chunks taken care of, the rest of it's like little details you don't have to worry about before you call the attorney. You don't have to have all the information decided. You just have to be willing to answer the questions, have some conversations, and a lot of that will get easier. But don't think you have to have it all done or figure it out before you call the attorney. That's our job. Our job is to tell you what you need. Just start with those few things. And even if you don't, like, I have no children, I have no family, I don't know who's gonna be my trustee. I can answer that question. Come see me. I will walk you through your options, right? Or one of my attorneys. I have 2 other attorneys in the office. So like, we can solve some of those problems. But if you're like, it's important to get my estate plan done, then start now. There's no reason to wait. So
that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today,
thanks
Ali.
for having me.
So helpful. I think people they'll take so many gems away from this conversation, and hopefully it will inspire them to take action, because that is the most important part. You can listen, you can learn, but taking the actual action is what's going to help protect you and protect your assets. And um, so take action. Ali gave us a lot of good action steps we can take even right now with a piece of paper and a pen. Just write some of those things down. Um, Ali, one more thing before we go. So I know you're amazing. I would feel like I would recommend you to everyone I know, but how can someone decide who to call? Like, like for me, when they're like calling real estate agents, I'm like interview agents, find out who you're comfortable with. What would you recommend for an estate lawyer?
Yeah, I love asking your friends and family first, right? Find out who they went to that they were comfortable with, or maybe not comfortable with. Like sometimes they're like, I went to my parents and they kind of talked down to me and they're just really old. All right, well, find someone who's a little younger, right? Find out what you're looking for. If someone knows they want someone to help their family administer the trust, they probably want to pick either a younger attorney or an attorney who has a succession plan, right?
Yeah.
I'm in my 30s, and so my firm is going to be going on a lot longer than someone who is in their 70s. So if you're in your 50s, you might want to pick a firm that's a little younger. If you don't care about that, then that doesn't really matter. Some firms will do like meet and greets or free consults. Our office got rid of those because we found that they were not really effective, actually. So we do paid consults. What's nice about those is we get like a deep dive into what's important to them and really designing their plan. And for people who don't have estate plans, that then gets applied to their price of their plan. So it's great. I would look at their website. I would see what their team looks like. I would see, most importantly, that they do this as like a main practice area. It's not like criminal defense, DUI, personal injury, estate planning, business, family law. You're like, whoa, I don't know how, unless you have a huge firm with a lot of different attorneys, they're not going to be really effective at this one thing. But if you find someone who does maybe estate planning and business planning, or just estate planning or in trust administrations, that I think is really important. And then when you call the office or text the office, if texting is important to you, like see how their staff treats you. Do they care if you answer the phone? Do they call you back? That's usually one of my questions. So we care so much about our clients that is our number one priority. If a firm doesn't do that, you can sort of expect what level of service you're going to get, because all of the documents can be very similar, right? We subscribe to the same softwares. A lot of us have the same training. So the difference is not necessarily the legal documents, although there can be a distinction. Oftentimes it's the service you're going to get. So maybe call a few places. Look at the reviews. That's always good to go. Look on the Google review page and go, do they have a lot of 5-star reviews of people who are happy? Better chance that you're going to be happy there versus like 3 stars, they wouldn't call me back. That's not good.
Yeah, and I know for you, you have an Instagram, so that's another way people get information.
Yes.
And
Yep.
so that's maybe another spot to check out and see what's on their page.
Or if they have a YouTube channel, see if they have videos explaining like what their process is. I have a YouTube channel with a bunch of videos of myself all the way back to 2020.
So helpful.
Right?
Videos can be very helpful and informative.
You get to know, because like I'm not the only attorney, and right, they won't necessarily get to work with me, but if they understand how I run the firm, if they understand what values I have, they can trust that my team that I've hired will have the same, right? They will have the same level of attention to detail, the same, if not more experienced, right? One of my attorneys is a certified specialist. She's a better attorney than I am. Like, you should want to work with her. She's phenomenal, but I'm great at running the firm. So like knowing what's important to you, like making sure that the firm is set up the way that works for you, because every attorney does a little bit differently. So it's good to find there's a right fit for there's not competition, by the way. I refer business to estate planning attorneys all the time. I'm great friends with estate planning attorneys. I'm like, oh, this one doesn't really work well for me. Awesome. Who can I send you to that will take really good care of you? I know. Here you go. Like, that's a gift too. So
that's awesome to hear that. I love that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I like to share the wealth, right? Because then they'll go, oh, Ali does that thing that I don't do. I'm like, yes, I do. Welcome aboard. This client's thrilled. That client's thrilled. Everybody's thrilled.
That's right. We can
So,
all share in the wealth and helping. And the goal is to help everyone and make our lives a little bit easier, right? So,
yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's to help as many people as possible. That is my goal. I want to help as many people as possible plan so that they don't have the pain and suffering that they might otherwise.
well, thank you so much for sharing today. So this is going to go up on YouTube. So I don't know if you want to share your contact info here or I can put it in.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do both. Yeah, it's gofflegal.com. And then my email is ali@gofflegal.com. Our phone number, you can go to our website, you can text us, you can email us, you can fill out a contact form, you can Google our Google, I don't know how you find my YouTube page. It's not linked to my website for some reason, but it's
Oh,
there.
well, we'll find someone to help you with that,
Right.
maybe.
Updates coming soon. So, yeah, but I'm happy to answer any questions. I can't obviously answer legal questions via email, but I can say hi and get you connected up with my assistant who could schedule a consult. So, or if
Awesome.
those
And
forms,
then,
if you want the forms, I'll just email the forms to you. Just say, I want those forms.
and you have that class coming up on November 8th
Yes.
for trustees,
Yep.
which sounds really helpful. And so, yeah, that gives people some time to get their stuff together. Well, maybe they won't have it totally done, but it's a
It's okay.
process.
No
Just
worries.
start the process. Take action.
Yeah. And that link is on my Facebook page and I think my Instagram too. So,
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining today. I definitely think we should have you back on at some point to talk about some of the other things in more
sure.
detail.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Thanks so much, Allie.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. See you later.
Bye.